Thanks for staying with us. So joining us on this segment is the member, House of Representatives, Honorable Kingsley Chinda. He will be speaking on the 10th National Assembly inauguration in June and all the politicking, contending issues leading to the yet-to-be-announced D-Day. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Yes. So one of the key issues currently across the country is the matter of zoning of the leadership of the Senate presidency. What are your thoughts on this? Because there are a few names that are being considered, we're told. What are your thoughts on it, and how do you believe for the and also for the House of Reps, also the leadership of the House of Reps, and also for the Senate? What are your initial thoughts on it, and how do you think it should be properly zoned?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Firstly, let me say that we practice parliamentary democracy in Nigeria, and for us to get it right, we must be prepared to bear some sacrifices. We must be prepared to be a little bit selfless. We must be prepared to go the whole hog. And I think the first issue that we had in the House of Representatives was the issue of whether majority party should produce or the minority parties put together, which has now formed the majority, should go ahead and attempt to produce the presiding officers of the House. And a few of us, a few very senior members of the Parliament came together, talked to ourselves, and decided that we must do the right thing, regardless of which side of the divide we find ourselves. And then we must also try to set the 10th Assembly on the right footing by ensuring that we support the right candidate that will pilot the affairs of this arm of government properly and in the interest of Nigeria as a whole. Of course, we set out to carry out some deep studies into what happens in other climes and how they have succeeded in their own parliamentary democracy. And we found out that they were playing by the rules. One of the first rules I would say is that the issues of party influence, it happens in every clime, even in the American system. And just recently, you heard the former president of America who insisted that he wanted a particular candidate for the Republicans, and all members of the party queued behind that candidate. That's a former president, not a sitting president, not an incoming president. And the party agreed with him, and members queued behind their party. That has helped to stabilize the system when it goes that way. But when you come to our own situation, severally, we have had situations where the party takes a decision and members will go against the decision of the party. That breeds indiscipline in the system, that breeds confusion, that also breeds that friction, personal friction, not friction in the interest of the nation now between the arms of government. An example is the 7th Assembly and the 8th Assembly. And incidentally, I have been part of those assemblies, and I can tell you my experiences in those assemblies. So we set up the joint tax and agreed that we must practice parliamentary democracy in line with acceptable standards. First, the party with majority in the House should produce presiding officers, and the minority parties should provide credible opposition on the floor of the House. Opposition based on facts, based on figures, with alternatives when we criticize. And we are prepared to do that. I am of the opposition party, and we are very prepared to provide Nigerians with a credible opposition on the floor of the House. Having agreed that the majority party should produce, we also agree that if the party zones that will abide by the zoning go to those zones and look for the best candidates from those zones to support. And that was why the joint tax made that first pronouncement that will abide by the APC zoning arrangements, if any. If the party says they are not interested in zoning, then we'll look at all the candidates that are available and go for the best. After an in-depth study
for those of us,
both the antecedents and the relationships at home.
For those of us on this side of the divide, when we hear things like consensus candidacy, we often think that, is this still a democracy? We understand that when the party agrees on this person, that's what the party leaders feel that everybody should align. But many Nigerians will feel that maybe the reason why we want a very robust National Assembly, because we want different people to have different ideas. We want it to be real democracy playing out, where people can actually vote individually, not so much of party. What do you think on this position?
First, let me just say that I didn't get you clearly because of the not too good audio at this end, but I want to make out of it that you're asking of the issue of having a consensus candidate and democracy itself and freedom of expression by members.
Yes.
Yes, it would appear so. It would appear so if you have a consensus candidate. But then we are actually driving for a consensus candidate, if it is possible. Now, the reason is that when you have a consensus candidate where everybody agrees that, yes, this is the right person, it makes it a win-win situation for every member of parliament. It makes it a win-win situation for Nigerians, and we will not dissipate both energy and resources in struggling for who becomes the speaker or the presiding officer of the House. Let me also say that in other developed climes, even before the election of speaker, they already know who the speaker ought to be, because you know that this is either the most senior member, this is the most qualified person, this is the majority leader, and his party has won the election, and he is the majority leader. Automatically, he becomes the speaker. Or he is the minority leader, now his party is majority in parliament. It follows that that minority leader will become the speaker of parliament in other climes. But it is here that we see a situation where everybody will throw his hat into the ring. Whether you are qualified or not qualified, you just want to struggle, you want to be speaker. Because you have the feeling that perhaps if I attempt to be the speaker of the parliament, I will be called, I will be discussed with, and then I will be asked to make a choice. If not speaker, what would you want? And some of these persons you see that are running for speakership are actually not interested in being the speaker of the House of Reps. Wow. They're interested in being chairman of committees. So they're just taking that shot in order for them to have a bargaining might. And that is not a good practice. So it is not abnormal to have a consensus candidate. Right. I can tell you that if we practice parliamentary democracy properly, we should have an idea of who and who ought to be the speaker of the 10th Assembly.
Okay.
So I already understand that many people aspire for positions when they know there is no opportunity, just so that there's a bit of visibility for them. And it causes distraction, you know, and just waste a lot of time. But a lot of people have aspired for positions within the House of Rep, and I am worried that we're not putting into cognizance the importance of experience. When we talk about House of Rep and what they're meant to do, the longer you've been there, the better you are at doing your job. So based on what the consensus is, do you believe that the party is considering experience, or they're just focused on zoning? Because I've been hearing more of zoning, the importance of balance, more than the part that we want to be sure that whoever will be put in that position has the necessary experience to effectively coordinate the affairs of the House.
Now, I can tell you that for us, I wouldn't want to say that I'm speaking on behalf of majority of the members of the House of Representatives, but I'm speaking for members of joint tax, which has more numbers anyway. So for us, we looked at several factors: experience, your conduct and demeanor in the House, your background, that is your representation in the House, your relationship with your people at home. We carried out thorough investigation in joint tax. We didn't just come up to adopt a candidate. We looked at, now if you talk about a parliamentarian, his functions are three-pronged. One, legislation. How well have you done in that aspect over the years in parliament? How many bills have you sponsored and how many have been assented to? That will give you a score when it comes to legislation from our own yardstick. Now, we also looked at the issue of representation. How well have you impacted on your constituency in terms of projects, in terms of attracting government presence, and your relationship with your people at home? How are you held at home? How do your people perceive you? Do you have a relationship, or you remain in Abuja and never go home? And then the third one is the oversight. If you have chaired a committee in the House, how well have you performed? What is your relationship with members of the committee that you have chaired? What is your relationship with the agencies that you have oversighted? Joint Tax went back to study all the aspirants or the persons who have brought themselves out for speakership on these issues, and we scored all. And I can tell you clearly that Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas excelled amongst them. Yes, everybody, all of them, they're all qualified. Some are good, some are better than others, but Tajuddin Abbas came out best amongst them. And the party, incidentally, also adopted him as their consensus candidate. So that means that the party also did some work. The party just didn't arrive at that decision. And so the Joint Tax found it very easy to align with the party position, because first we had said that we are going to allow the majority party to zone, and then we'll go to that zone and look for the best candidate. Meanwhile, we started a study, a background study of all the candidates. And so when the party arrived at that decision, it was easy for us to take our position, make our position clear that we are supporting Tajuddin Abbas for speakership. This is somebody who has over 21 bills assented to by the president. That is, if you go through the law books of this country today, you can get at least 21 laws with his name as the sponsor. I have been in the parliament for 12 years. I have just 2 laws to my credit assented to by Mr. President. That is a challenge to me. Now, I have been in the parliament for 12 years, like I said, I came in with him. And I can tell you that I'm not a lazy parliamentarian.
Yeah.
I work here very late. And sometimes, even when I close, I see the light in his office still on, and I ask, who is in that office? They say, Tajuddin Abbas is still there. I mean, it leaves an impression. We went back to Zaria, and when we went on our own investigation to find out his relationship with his people, and almost everybody rated him very highly, including the former vice president of this country, who is a member of the PDP, who told us about him from infancy up till now, and rated him very highly. Tajuddin Abbas is of the APC. I am of the PDP. The former vice president is of the PDP, and our leader in the PDP. That is representation at home. Now, you talk about oversight. When we looked at his oversight performance, presently he's chairman of land transport. And we asked members of his committee, everybody, every member of that committee had something good to say about him.
Right.
Particularly his deputy chairman, who should be at loggerheads with him, because that's one yardstick you use in assessing the performance of a chairman, particularly relationship with members. Find out the relationship with his deputy chairman.
Right. Okay.
His deputy chairman clearly was pleading that, look, if he could be given a higher position, that he is worth it.
Okay, sir.
So that also gave him a pass mark. I'm saying this so that Nigerians will understand when Joint Tax comes out to say this is our position, that we are not taking that position on grounds of politics.
Right.
We have people who are closer to us as friends, as brothers, who are in this race.
Right. Okay.
Perhaps closer than Tajuddin Abbas to us. But we have the interests of this country at heart, and we think we should get it right. And to get it right, the foundation is very important.
Okay, sir. We know that...
It is not about relationship.
Yes, sir. So we know that the presidential-elect and the vice is a combination of a Muslim-Muslim ticket. And Nigerians are saying when it comes to having the Speaker of the House, it will be okay to, go in line with the federal character. Are you people considering that as well?
because we understand the nature of Nigeria as a whole?
Definitely, we also consider the issue of federal character, and that was why we encouraged the party to zone. Our first statement was that we will encourage the majority party to zone, and we will abide by the zoning. The reason is that zoning allows you to capture that spread and federal character that the Constitution requires. And so that was considered. But again, let me say as an individual that our problems in Nigeria do not know religion, tribe, or political party. If you're hungry, hunger does not recognize religion, tribe, or political party. The security problems we have today, those who are killed, they are not asked whether you are from PDP or APC, whether you are from the north or the south. If you're unfortunate, you're caught in the web. So whilst we consider the issues of federal character, as an individual, I speak, that is not most important. I think that we need an emergency in this country in several areas. Everybody has said that we have the resources, we have the enormous resources, both manpower, human resources, natural resources, but our problem is management. And so we should begin to put round pegs in round holes. Right. And that is what joint tax is out to do.
Okay, so I respect that, definitely. Many people have also had concern, or expressed concern, the fact that the president-elect, the vice president-elect are both Muslims. So they're hoping that the third and fourth man should be of another religion. But even with that, others are still considering leadership from other Muslim leaders. What are your thoughts on this? How important do you think religion must play in this, especially because our president-elect and vice president-elect are also Muslims? Oh,
that was the question.
I asked.
You just.
But let me also take you back. If you look at all the frontliners in the House of Representatives that are running for speakership, almost all of them are Muslims.
Yeah.
Almost all. So if you have to make a choice amongst all, what do? You go for the best. So if we also consider that, we're not going to push persons to come and run for speakership, but we are left with those who have presented themselves.
Wow. So you're saying none of the Christians have presented themselves?
I can't, as we speak now, I can't remember any Christian that has presented himself for the speakership. But we have a lot for the deputy speakership.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so we have to wrap up with that because the show is fast spent. But in your general view, how do you think the final outcome should look when it comes in June?
Come again?
I said, now that we're wrapping up, so what do you think the final outcome should look like? What should the National Assembly leadership look like when we finally find out in June? What's your own suggestion and your own preference? Or who are your preferences?
Firstly, after the proclamation, when the National Assembly is inaugurated, of course, we don't have an option than to elect the presiding officers. And by the special grace of God, I believe that the best will emerge. And that best is Tajuddin Abbas. I believe that he will be the Speaker of the 10th Assembly. And I believe that he is ready. We have had interface with him. He is ready. He will hit the ground running. And I also believe that he will realize that he is here to serve Nigerians, not for self-aggrandizement, not just to show off. He's a gentleman by excellence. If you interact with him or even see him, you will understand what I'm saying. He's also a selfless Nigerian, and we believe that power will not corrupt him to do otherwise than we know him. And we are also ready to put in our own quota to ensure that the 10th Assembly actually represents Nigerians, that we speak for the people, we act for the people, and at the end of the day, that the country will be better off. So I will also want to urge my colleagues to please be a little bit more selfless in this particular act. Let us be more Nigerian. Let us look at the candidates and see who will help this country better.
All right, let me just
look
throw...
at the candidate and look at their credentials, and take a decision that by the time we sleep will sleep with our 2 eyes closed.